They said you want to get in my video? Come here. I'm recording a video for YouTube. Alright kids, I'm ready to get started. I highly recommend taking out a couple sheets of paper and having no, or at least a lot less work to do. Go color it. Oh, at home? Okay. I'm going to be sitting in this chair talking for quite a while, okay? You want to check on your iPad? If you keep it, if you play it while it's plugged in, the battery won't die. Okay. Number 1. Are you done?
I unlocked the packet.
Huh?
I unlocked the packet.
Where? Oh, you remembered the number?
Yeah.
You little sneaker. You're gonna be sneaky when you get older. He has a good memory. Okay. Question 1 says, describe 2 problems that divided government poses for the president in making federal appointments. So, I think the answer must have to do with making federal appointments. Well, and then you guys said 2 problems that divided government poses in making appointments. There's greater conflict and it's harder to get approval. I want to see the key. Let's see. Is it this one? Okay. Are we? Yeah, I guess for sure. Okay. You see, the issue that I'm seeing is that your answer I mean, does it say greater policy conflict on here? Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, I wasn't really sure either.
Like how to explain it. You didn't know how to explain it. So what this question is saying, let's say the President Trump right now, let's pretend the Senate is Democrat. The Senate's not Democrat, it's Republican. But let's pretend that it was like 70 Democrats and 30 Republicans or something. And Trump proposes Betsy DeVos to be in charge of education. Do we know enough about Betsy for that to be a good example? She's kind of, I mean, I don't want to be biased, but she's kind of like not mainstream in her views on education, okay? So this question is only asking about appointments, and so you are writing what's on the key. It just doesn't make it's not making a super ton of sense. So let's explain it in that appointments face a tougher path when we have divided government. For instance, if Trump selects Betsy to be his education secretary, the Senate is, and then now I want to look at the key, is likely to be really tough on her in the committee. If you were in this class a couple years ago, we watched videos of her being interviewed, and they were like grilling her. She talked about guns in schools and grizzly bears and stuff. I don't know if you guys were paying attention to politics back then. The Senate is likely to be very tough on her in her committee hearing, and ask her, we'll call it pointed because I already said the word tough, questions. Also, so basically this is what happens with kids a lot, is they see the key and they'll use the key, but they can't explain it because it was a little hard for them to understand. I would say because the scrutiny is so tough, because we'll call it confirmation is so difficult, oftentimes offices go unfilled for a great length of time. And that's on the key. I think that makes sense. I mean, a lot of this is repetitive, harder to get approval, yeah. More frequent character attacks on the nominees, yeah. Yeah. Another great answer is the president might have to pick someone who is more moderate, which would limit their choices. So, like, Betsy DeVos would never have been confirmed if Democrats controlled the Senate. So it would have, like, made it harder for Trump. And he might have had to pick somebody that was more moderate. Does that make sense? Zoom in here. What that means is, like, Betsy favors private schools. And she favors private colleges and stuff. So, like, that's policy conflict. I know that's, like, weirdly worded. But that's a fight about policy. Like, she favors charter schools. Most Democrats favor public schools instead. So that's a basically, think of the word policy as laws, like disagreements on law. Then what they feel like is right. Yeah. Then they would fight about beliefs. Think of policy as the word beliefs, like a difference of beliefs, where it's like, dang, I don't know that we're on the same page here. Okay, that covers A. Part B says, identify and explain how the president overcomes this. Oops, I kind of said that, didn't I? And you guys probably do that too when you're answering questions. You're like, oops, A kind of answers B. Okay, but I like what you put here, is that he gathers public support with the assistance of the media, talking on TV. I love Betsy DeVos. She's fantastic. She ran a successful business, whatever. He tries to talk her up. What is it? Gas her up? Is that a thing? And then this one says he can make compromises, and I kind of said that in A. He's going to pick somebody less extreme if we have a split government. If he's working with his own party, he'll pick somebody extreme because he can. You see how control of the Senate is so important. If you're the other party, imagine how much more they could mess with Trump, but it stayed Republican. So that means all the judges will be Trump. They're going to be more extreme because it stayed with Trump. It stayed Republican. I'm going to leave this link with you guys. You can access this after today. It just won't be editable. I am. I'm going to go on to number 2. Is that okay? I'm going to pretend you said yes. Presidential approval ratings, they change a lot over time. Identify 2 factors that will decrease approval ratings and explain why each factor has that effect. Bless you. Scandals. The economy, I like that. Wars. Re-election. Okay. So we're looking at increase approval ratings. Increase approval ratings. And you guys, oh wait. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I read it wrong. We're going to start with decrease approval ratings. So 2 factors that decrease approval ratings. Popularity over term. So what you guys chose to go with was that popularity over term, a president just becomes less popular as time goes on. That's just natural. That's a natural, predictable cycle. And then you went with scandals. So every president, we had that like impeachment paper. Every president has their scandals, big and small. That will lower your approval rating over time. I like how you guys like drew it out and used examples. This is an example of a very good FRQ. I very much like that you put examples on them. You talked about Nixon and Watergate. When Nixon left, he had a 20% approval rating. So that's good. Notice that Nixon and Watergate is not on the key. They're bringing in outside knowledge. We got to be careful in Gov. Don't just memorize the key. Make sure we have an explanation. And where do you find this explanation? Look for an additional key. Have you seen it where the kids write their responses? Okay, those are helpful. It's like extra, but I'm telling you today what 5 questions I like. So if you want to have an A in this class, that's the difference between an A and a B FRQ is the kid that looked at that extra key and really analyzed like how'd that person write the essay. Question B says, what will raise up their ratings? When you're running for re-election, And you know, like, let's say you're Obama or something, and like you've been president for a while, so your ratings are down in the 40s. But when you start to run again, and people are comparing you, let's say Obama ran against Trump, suddenly his popularity goes up a bit because like people are having to make something to compare him to. You know, it'll raise the ratings. Did you talk about one or two? Oh, just use of the media. Is this two things or one? Well, what I'm saying is, so for me, so you're saying use of the media and re-election is two different things? I think you are. They're real similar. So I like, when something's similar, I like to like do a very different one. So let's look at, I like war, as odd as it sounds, like 9/11 and all that. Bush went from like a 40% approval to like a 90% overnight when we got attacked and we went to war, and I know that's odd. If a war goes on too long, it can lower your approval rating, but you can write it as an increase that 9/11 or a crisis. Is crisis on here? Oh, there is crisis. Yeah, so like 9/11 made Bush have a 90% approval. That's why people like to joke Bush did 9/11, because it turned him into like he could do no wrong for 2 years. People loved him. Because it's a natural reaction when we've been attacked to like back your president. You're looking puzzled. Are you okay? Does that make sense? You could argue that war makes someone less popular too, like Vietnam, when it's gone on for 10 years and people are getting drafted. So it works for both, and I think the key shows it for both. Yeah, look, it does. Only if it goes badly over a long time. So I like that. You can remember war as an answer for both of them. I wouldn't necessarily use it for 2 times, but I would, yeah. I'm done with question 2. No. The ones they did are real similar. That's why I didn't. They talk about use of the media and re-election. I feel like re-election is sort of like using the media in itself, so that's why I skipped that one. FRQ number 3, and I think we're getting into like question that I like. Yeah, so you could put a star by number 3. I like number 3. It's not that I dislike number 2, it's that it's kind of basic. Like, there's not a lot of parts to it. So, question 3 says, tell me 2 formal powers the president has when it comes to foreign policy. Why is executive agreement not a right answer? Because it's not in the Constitution. So just like this is kind of, it's testing your knowledge of what's in the Constitution that the president can do. And he can appoint ambassadors, and he can negotiate treaties. Don't say ratify, because who can ratify treaties? Not even Congress, but the Senate. I know that's tricky, but... so make sure you always use your wording correctly. He can negotiate and make treaties with other countries. That's 2 right there, but it looks like they went on to give even more answers. He has the power to commit troops as commander-in-chief. He can recognize nations. Like, remember Venezuela, how we're, like, recognizing this other president? I usually can't explain that to kids because no one understands, but we have a modern example that makes sense. How we are not recognizing the actual president of Venezuela, we're recognizing somebody else. Like sending them places. That's kind of in the Constitution. It's a little bit questionable. I wouldn't use that personally because it's a little tricky, right? Because he can't declare war, but he is the commander-in-chief. It's not wrong, though. And he can receive ambassadors. The laziest answer is he can appoint ambassadors and he can receive ambassadors. But it's not wrong. And then part B. So that was like 5 possible answers right there. And they're all pretty, like, not too hard to remember. Part B says informal now about foreign policy. Informal now. So now we're liking, oh wait, hold on. Am I crazy? Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead to C. Formal about the Congress, thank you. So formal about the Congress, how about they ratify treaties? And you might want to get specific and say Senate ratifies treaties, but they're part of the Congress, so it works. They is approve ambassadors on there? They do. They confirm. They confirm ambassadors. The power of money with the military, the power of the purse is a good answer. You don't have to, but the power to fund the military. I don't know if we want to like look at the key. I like those answers pretty good. Oh, they don't have ratified treaty, but I totally would. Yeah, I think that's a good. I think that's a good one. They have to approve. It's like a judge, and it's like Betsy DeVos. Like he appoints an ambassador, and they approve the ambassador. An ambassador is someone that's going to go live in that country and represent the United States. We haven't talked a ton about ambassadors. It literally just means like, hello, welcome to America. Like, here's your office, Japan. Like if you go to DC, there's this whole street full of embassies and stuff. So like, we give them permission to go there, and he's, you know, he doesn't literally like meet them and shake hands, but it's like he's giving them permission. Okay, yeah, you can come represent Japan. Welcome to America. Like that's receiving ambassadors, just like Japan's doing for our ambassadors when they arrive. They have permission. Okay, now we're talking about informal, and I love executive agreements for informal because treaties are hard to pass. You see why I like this question, because this test, it's got a lot going on with it, a lot of answers that show a lot of knowledge. I want to check the key and just see. I see you guys went with the electronic throne. Want to see what else. Look, 8 points. So executive agreements, you guys went with this, right? I think you went with this. Did you? Electronic throne. So you can pick any of these. They're all kind of weird. Let's see. Meeting with world leaders is easy. It's not in the Constitution because it's just kind of like.
Would that go with the executive agreements?
With the what?
Executive agreements, like would it meet with the head of the state?
If you word it nicely, you can get like 2 separate points for it. Crisis manager, like dealing with North Korea and the people are starving and we're going to make a treaty or an executive agreement. But maybe media is good. I think we're all going to get the executive agreement points. I think, you know, if I use this question, only half of the kids are going to get the rest. And you guys are probably in that half. But here's the rest. Using the media. Agenda setting means picking the direction that America goes in. You know, like Trump has very much changed our direction with Russia, with North Korea. That's his power of agenda setting. But perhaps the easiest combination is executive agreements and meeting with other world leaders, if you want to go with that. So I'm going to move on. Is this... what's left? Is there anything left? Oh, here it is. Explain how each of the informal powers in C contributes to their advantage over Congress. By the way, you guys went with media and executive agreements. Executive agreement gives them advantage because they don't need approval. I think that's pretty straightforward. And if you use media, you can say he sits on an electronic throne. His use of the media is way easier than Congress's use of the media.
We proceed with executive for the consequences of Congress instead of passing information in a way.
I wouldn't use it. You know, if it's not on the key, my answer is don't use it. Because even in class, I tell people, like, don't give them the points if it's not on the key. Because I want to grade it like College Board would. And so that's kind of the rule. So, like, their D is pretty solid. I like their D. It's a good combination. But if you choose something else, like meeting with world leaders, I think it's pretty clear. Like, the president's one person. Congress meeting with world leaders has much less effect. All right, I like 3. And I like 4. Let's look at 4. You could put a star by 4. You need time?
Oh, do you just explain this thing?
With D, you explain why C gives him an advantage over Congress.
Oh, I thought you just saw C.
Yeah. Look at that font change here. FRQ number 4 is all about war powers, it seems. Bless you. So letter A, what's the conflict between Congress and the President over war? That's pretty straightforward. The President's the commander-in-chief, but only Congress can declare war. That sentence is enough to get the points. And remember, I like this question, so maybe put a star on your paper. It's basically like the War Powers Act. Like, do you know everything about the War Powers Act? Why it was made and how long people can go places. Question B says, tell me the parts of the War Powers Act that limit the President's power. So they went with, he must notify Congress if he sends troops places into combat within 48 hours. If you send troops places, and how about if they're not shooting, I guess you don't need to say. But if they are going to be going into combat, you need to let Congress know within 2 days. And Trump has done this. I've read his little letters that he sends Congress. He has to do it. The part I would go with after that is the troops can be removed, or like they need to come back within 60 to 90 days, right? Remembering all the details can be a little weird. So the key says President, that's too vague, I wouldn't use that. Conflicts are limited to 60 days unless Congress takes action to extend it. Congress can extend the time, or he needs to pull them out. So that's about it. So if you remember that 60-day limit, that should give you the extra point. Bless you, you poor girl. I hope you get better by next week. I think that happens. Like, let's say with Syria, we're going in there to fight ISIS, like, when we're still there. So it's like, oh, he lets them know, I'm sending troops into Syria, and like 60 days goes by, and he's like, look, I still need them there, and they're like, all right, we'll give you like more time. They would have to pass like a resolution, like a law, that would give him more time. Letter C is asking, letter C is the last letter. Tell me 2 powers Congress has over war making. So, but it says you can't tell me what you used in A, which is the power to declare war. It says tell me 2 powers they have that are not declare war. And so this group said 2 powers they have over war making. Is impeachment and all that on the key? Yeah. I personally would like treaty ratification because that's like embedded in our brains pretty good. And I like money. If you want to stop the president, don't give him money for troops or whatever. Like, limit his money. Impeachment is okay. You got to explain how it would relate to the war powers and all that. All of these, you have to connect it back to the war.
How do you connect the treaty ratification?
Sure, yeah. That could work. Passing laws, you can pass laws related to war that are like, president must withdraw troops or something by this date. Like, that's a law. Yeah. So I always go with what's the easiest. You remember in many classes on Friday I talked about the Iraq war and like torture in the prison. So you can talk about congressional oversight and like, for instance, they investigated that like Iraqi prison that we had created. Like, that's congressional oversight related to war. Explaining this is going to be the most challenging part of the question. Yeah, like stuff like that. I think we're done with that question. It's 11:36, giving us 24 minutes. I'm going to focus on, I said I like the whole backside, so we're going to jump. Or I don't know. I mean, I can look at 5. There's some parts I like a 5. You know how I like the Frankenstein questions? The part I like of 5 is A. I like A. But we've seen A in other questions, I think. So A is like a... Oh, no, we haven't seen it because it's about domestic. So I like A because it's asking something brand new, kind of different. What can the president do over domestic? This is not war stuff, not foreign stuff. So it is brand new. I could see Frankensteining it with like foreign policy. So this is what he can do at home. Vetoing something, signing something, giving a State of the Union address, calling Congress into session. So if you're starring stuff or highlighting stuff, you can highlight the A of part 5. I like that part. And could see wedging it in with something else. Yeah, so the phrase hasn't come up in class a lot, but lame duck is... I think everyone should maybe write it down, because you're going to need to know. On the key is fine. But lame duck is, you know, like, let's say Trump runs for president again and he loses. Lame duck is that awkward time from early November to January where he's still president, but he's not, he's like powerless. He can pass laws, but like really nothing much gets done. So like for 2 years, or for 2 months, it's just kind of like lame duck. I don't know where they come up with that word, like a duck that's stupid or something. Like injured. Yeah. Yeah. So he can't really do anything. You can think of it, I know they use the phrase in sports when like your coach is on the last year of his contract and they're like not extending the coach and the players are like not listening to the coach anymore. You know, because they're like, you won't be here next year anyway. You know what example I want to use, but I'm not going to use it right now. Okay, I'm not going to say. All right, next. All right. No, I'm not going to say. Okay. Use your imagination. Question 6.
Wait, I don't know what word.
No. All right. I like 6 a lot. If we're talking about questions we like. What's up? A treat? Right here. Raisins, orange.
Those are not treats.
Oh my gosh.
They're
Buddy.
real treats.
That is a real treat. Look, in 20 minutes, set a timer. I gotta teach these kids. Okay. Alright. We really gotta focus on this question. Hint, hint. Tell me 2 reasons why Congress gives the bureaucracy discretion. Like, why does Congress give them all the power with executing laws? So that Congress doesn't have to deal with it. So, yeah, that's on there. Congress does not want to be blamed when things go badly. Congress, I always like this one a lot, they lack the expertise. If you have someone in charge of nuclear power regulation, they're probably more qualified. They passed a test and all that. They're more qualified than like Ken Calvert, who does not have nuclear power knowledge. What happened with your iPad?
It did dial. Yes.
Oh, you know what else I have? I was saving this one for emergencies. All right, get out of here.
What am
What's an emergency? This. Okay, go sit in the desk. It's a national emergency. I'm issuing an F210 emergency. I need immediate Nintendo Switch funding to solve this emergency. It is still recording, right? Okay. Okay, oh, more efficient is good? Do we understand the question and the answer?
Yeah.
Do you have your favorite answers you would pick?
Yeah.
I like the first 2 and the last one I like a lot. Okay, next. You guys got look at that. You got the NASA example. Oh, more knowledge in their field. Look at you. I love it. Good job, group that did this question. Who did this question? You guys? Oh, you guys did. Okay. Good job. All right. Letter B. Choose one of the agencies listed below. Identify what they make decisions about and give an example of how they use that power. So you get to pick. What do you say? Oh, don't do that. Okay. Do you know which one you would pick? You got E. It's alright. It's fine? Alright, do you guys at home, would you, or not at home, but would you pick EPA, FCC, or Federal Reserve? I'll tell you right now, this one would probably be the hardest. Would probably be the hardest. Because I'm going to talk a lot more about it in another unit. I like FCC and I like EPA. This group went with FCC, that they regulate TV, radio, satellite, telephones. I think that's a point right there, right? And then that's the policy area, so you're saying they regulate the radio waves. And then give an example. And then you guys gave the Janet Jackson example, did you? Yes. So they make a policy of like no F word on TV on your local channel, no F word on the radio, like the ones that's not Sirius XM radio. I mean, net neutrality, killing net neutrality is an answer you can use for FCC. That, you know, kids didn't have that last year as an answer. Now you guys do. Environmental protection, they can fine businesses that pollute. Let's check the key. This says what they rule over, but it's your job to give an example. They can't list all the possible examples. Do you have an example for environment if you choose it? What's your example if you choose environment?
In California, don't they regulate the environment?
Yeah, but that's just California. So, what? Probably the whole nation we have some car regulations. So, how about just businesses that pollute will get fined?
But how was that because it's in the private sector?
But that's still fine. That's okay. It doesn't make it a bad answer. Alright. Like I said, Federal Reserve would be the hardest one. They deal with money, and they make decisions about printing and not printing that affect inflation, if you want to talk about examples. Huh? They probably do. I'm not... That's fine, probably, yeah. Okay. Letter... Nolan, can you turn the volume down? Letter C. Describe 2 ways Congress ensures that agencies follow what they wanted. Nolan, turn it down. I can hear it. Turn it way down. Make it quiet. How about that? Okay. This is a good question. Hard question. How does Congress get them to follow what they intended? Let's look at letter C. Alright, they ensure it by monitoring them. Shh, listen. They create the budget. That can affect how the... It's basically like, how does Congress control the bureaucracy? And here's all the possible answers. Jack, stay focused. Remember how much I like this question. Can you answer part C? Yeah? Oversight, where they call down people and they put them under oath and make them answer questions. Giving them money. Holding hearings and investigations. These are similar and great. To me, oversight, hearings, and investigations are all three very similar. I wouldn't do them as separate answers. Then I would do budget as a separate one. Bless you. Alright, I'm done talking about a question I like very much. Hint, hint. Number 7. I also like 7. Like a lot? Okay.
You like 6 or 7 better?
I like them a lot. Both.
I'll put 2 smiling faces.
Nolan, what do you like better? 6 or 7? Ooh, we better, let's look. Alright, letter A. Describe the merit system. It's the idea that people got their job not from who they're friends with, but because they were qualified, they passed a test. Because they moved their way up the ladder. I want to see the wording of the key. Hiring or promotion based on merit and qualifications. And passing a test is also a good answer. Letter B, we're already done with A. For each of the following, tell me one factor that contributes to their independence. The structure of the bureaucracy and the complexity of the problems that they deal with. Kind of hard. And I like this question, so it's hard. So pay attention. So you're going to say... You're going to say that the structure of the bureaucracy is very large and that people are specialists and they have expertise and it's based on merit. You're going to say that the stuff they deal with is very complex and they're experts and they're specialized. Don't say they're experts twice to get 2 points. It's not going to work. So don't repeat yourself. That they've been given authority by Congress. I'll see what did you guys say? Oh, you just kind of have the key exactly. Oh, no, you don't. Structure of the bureaucracy. In each organization, there's bureaucratic independence. An example is FBI. At the top of each group is a director who's in charge of everyone down to the field agents. Every organization has levels of bureaucracy. Yeah, somewhere in there, talk about the FBI, which is very large and requires organization. Always includes a keyword from the key. You know what I mean? By saying large, that means I hit the key. Part B, bless you. Part B of this question is the hardest. This one says, for each of the following, ouch, not pick one, but for all of them, tell me how, according to the Constitution, they can check the bureaucracy. And Congress can do it with money. Yeah. They can do it with new laws. Oh, yeah. Oh, this one's hard because it has to be in the Constitution. And you're going to want to say Congressional oversight, but that's not there. Like the subpoena and all that. It's not in the Constitution. So this could trip you up. Make sure you only mention stuff that you know is in the Constitution. Money and impeachment and legislation, appropriation, is in the Constitution. In my mind, though, even I looked at the key right now and said, where is oversight? And then I'm like, oh, it's missing because it's not constitutional. It's just added after the fact. And then the courts can rule on things the bureaucracy did, and they can call them unconstitutional, like separating families at the border. They can say, stop doing that, which is what they did. That's a good example. Remember the word injunctions, my even classes? Odds will do it on Monday or Tuesday. Injunction means stop doing what you're doing. Stop separating families at the border. They must stay together. Judicial review, they could strike down in executive orders. And then interest groups can lobby and protest and use the media. First Amendment stuff. It has to be constitutional, so connected. You must have the words First Amendment in your answer. Miraculously, we still have 10 minutes, and I like number 8, so we can... Oh, what? Is that your question? Luis's question. What game are you playing? Mario Odyssey? Do you want to ask the class if they like Mario? Oh. All right. Oh. He trick-or-treated in Eastvale last year, and he was towed. And it was amazing how many people really... They knew, whether you were 50 years old or 8 years old, everybody knew who that was. I had questions about whether or not that would be It's kind of lumpy and And honestly, I was worried because I shouldn't tell you this, but if you look up Toad references in popular culture as related to politics, right around Halloween there was, I'll let you look into it. Okay?
I'm about to look it up.
It has to do with our president and, I'll say no more, but I was very worried that, people were going to be laughing and chuckling, but no one seemed to get it. And you guys not knowing what I'm talking about tells me... Okay. FRQ number 8. You at home, just ignore that part. Did you hear? I was worried that people were gonna be saying something. Okay, did you look it up?
I don't care.
So I was very nervous. I'm like, are you sure? Wouldn't you like to be Mario? No, I want to be Toad.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
We aim it at super rate.
Okay.
Alright.
Hey, related to AP Gov. Okay. No. No. All right. For the powers below, explain one way that congressional decision-making is affected. Veto, executive orders, and commander-in-chief. I love the way they structured their... They got color and everything. Looks good. So with veto... Okay, so it's saying, how does this power affect Congress's decision-making? Trump threatened to veto that budget that didn't have money for the wall, so they never sent it to him. So it prevents or discourages action if the president threatens a veto. I like that. Budget.
Bless you.
Thank you.
The power to issue executive orders. Two possible answers. Congress doesn't have to take action on controversial issues, or Congress can try to, like, strike down that executive order and pass a law against it, or compromise. So when Trump does an executive order to end DACA, he's putting pressure on Congress, pass a law to deal with DACA now, because I just got rid of it. Power as commander-in-chief. Congress can control military spending and can approve or modify or reject funding. That's fine. We got a lot of repetitive ideas that we've dealt with today, which is good for you. Alright, it's the opposite question now. Congress has this power. How does it affect the president? There it is. I'm done. Peace.